In past couple of weeks, I have been asked multiple times, what do I think about Prince Harry's book, Spare? So here is what I think about the book, and you decide if you need to buy it, or probably why not. Spare is Prince Harry's highly anticipated memoir. I'll speak later about why it is called Spare, at least what Harry says, but before we go in, it is worth mentioning that the book itself was ghostwritten by J.R. Moehringer and published by Penguin House. Moehringer seems to have had problems writing this book, since Harry is the guy who repeatedly says he does not read books and was a poor student. But the ghostwriter, feeling he is writing for a prince, does not capture Harry in many places in the book. Moehringer, or better say Harry, reflects on his mother's death, his complex relationships with other family members, and his battle with press. For those who don't know, Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, is a member of the British royal family. Currently, he lives in California, together with his wife, Meghan, and he runs a non-profit organization, Archewell. Not to anyone's surprise, I am a monarchist. And many believe that monarchists should at all costs ignore the blunders and not hold royals accountable for their actions. I am not one of those. Critique where it should be critiqued, praise where it should be. Prosperity and poverty among nations aren't preordained fates, stemming from the culture and geography. Instead, the main reason why some countries do better than others is their institutions. This book could be a metaphor for a new generation of leadership in the West who think that institutions that bore it are fundamentally evil, and the way you demonstrate that you are a good guy is by breaking with those institutions without any sense of decency and morality. This all being justified by sense of self-centered narcissist notion of freedom and liberty. This new, Harry's, leadership is completely opposite to traditional Western leadership, such as the leadership shown by Queen Elizabeth when she dedicated herself to the realm on her 21st birthday address, almost half the age of Prince Harry. She then dedicated her whole life to service to citizens and the royal family, something we were all witness of. True leadership and true institution. Now, let's get back to the book. If this book was only about Prince Harry's relationship with his mother and how he came to terms with her tragic death, that would be one thing. This book was promoted as a special insight into the royal family. And hint, royal family secrets out in the open. Nothing more than what you would expect from tabloids. The only problem being, Harry is really explaining to us in the book how much he dislikes tabloids. And this strategy worked on book sales, making it fastest selling non-fiction book since UK records began. Spare sold in over 1.5 million copies on its first day of sales in US, Canada and UK combined. Prince Harry is a 38-year-old man, yet even at this age he finds it hard that he had bodyguards in his private school. In the book, he mentions that on the day of his birth, Prince Charles allegedly said to Diana, "Wonderful, now there is an heir and spare." William was the firstborn, the heir to the throne, while Harry, the second son, was the spare. And apparently, Charles's comment was a joke. But Harry's parents and grandparents often talked about him in this way, making it clear that he was a backup. Which is surprising that he didn't know. He was number 3 in succession line. And if he wanted, he could find his own spare at number 4, and so on for hundreds of places. It might not be a nice thing to say, but the reality in which all of us live is very simple. He is an adult. And reality is that in any system you have roles. He had a role of being spare to the future king. Others have other roles. At your workplace, are you the boss? Sometimes you are, but more often you're not. And does this mean that you're not a relevant part of the system? Or that you're not important? On one hand, the primary, the future king, his brother, will have more responsibilities and will have to dedicate his life fully to the realm, people, and family. While Harry's role is not that difficult, really. He can do whatever humanitarian work he wants to do. He will do this with a solid budget, so he doesn't need to do much fundraising if he doesn't want to. He gets to be an important and rich person. But he doesn't feel like that's enough. His role apparently should be larger, and for this larger role, he will dump his family. Harry also reflects on his relationship with his father. Charles is not just Harry's father, but also his boss and his banker. Or at least he was until Harry's exit from the royal life. The point he is making is, it is not a typical father-son relationship. Harry has fond memories of his father, comforting him while he was a child. He used to be afraid of the dark. And at bedtime, Charles would sit beside him, gently tickling his face until he fell asleep. And he always called Harry his darling boy. And yes, this is probably an abnormal life compared to many other teens around the globe. Millions grew up in poverty, with both parents doing two jobs, never having time to call them darling boy in the evening. They don't have time for that. So even if his father was there for him to comfort him, Harry still thinks of Charles as distant father. Let's put that aside. There is one very weird moment in the book. Prince Harry had a matron. I don't know if she is alive now, but I can imagine her to be very proud of being part of Prince Harry's upbringing. What will the world know about her? According to Prince Harry, 38-year-old writing the story about his life, Pat, the matron, was not hot. She was cold. She was small, mousy, frazzled with her hair greasily falling into her always tired eyes, with no joy for life, with pain in knees and spine. Poor woman that was tortured by him and his friends. What was the point of this? I don't know. Possibly to give us a glimpse into spoiled brat life. Either way, he goes on from childhood adventures to tragic death of Princess Diana and paparazzi. He tells us how he asked his private secretary to get him the secret police files on the car crash. Harry saw photos of the tunnel in Paris and the smashed car. Some of the pictures have been taken by police, but others, Harry realized, were paparazzi photos. And then he saw his mother. In the photos, she was surrounded by golden lights. This is when he realized that photographers had followed Diana into the tunnel and then kept shooting and shooting, even as she lay dying. Horrible, horrible thing. Years later, therapy helped him to come to terms with the death of his mother. This first part of the book is very upsetting and very sad. This is a story about a kid losing his mom. And that is where the book starts being increasingly strange, in my opinion. We know that tabloids are pushing the sales of the book, yet he talks at length how he dislikes tabloids, while his father would tell him just to ignore the papers. He says that his father told him, "Darling boy, just don't read them," and this is probably a good advice. This is where Harry gave context that I believe to be fiction. He started with drug scandal and said that that was fabricated. Okay, fair enough. But this was fabricated by no other than his family and his father's people, according to him. As if that fabrication would make him somehow look good, or that would give a good perspective on royal family. And I don't really buy this. This idea is used later as a proof that Charles's staff or someone else from royal family published Meghan's private letter in newspaper, which is why they sued newspapers. And finally, more news leaked in the papers in 2020 about Harry's and Meghan's departure to US. Harry might be blaming his family for press leaks, but who did really profit from making the royal scandals fresh in tabloids over the past few years? I don't believe that it was Prince Charles, or today's King Charles III, who profited from this, or royal family, or anybody who is a monarchist. Book has more bizarre moments, like having frostbite on his penis and the weird way he explains how he elevated symptoms, or when he speaks about Afghans he killed. Now that he detached himself from the royal family and the institution, what else has Harry to offer the world? Alright, don't miss this video where we explore Could Monarchy Fix Russia? And if you already saw it, go and check our other videos on the channel.